Yesterday at the prestigious Nairobi Club, there was a book launch. A lot of things happened in this book launch that are interesting, including speeches, and we want to put it before the people's mirror. And before that, let me just detail to you the background of this book launch. Honorable Justin Muturi, who served as a speaker under Uhuru Kenyatta's government, was a member of parliament from 2002 in the now hotly contested Mbeere North by-elections, but served as a member of parliament in that particular constituency before handing it over to Lenny Kivuti in 2007. He's also an individual that served in the cabinet of both William Ruto, of course, of the cabinet of William Ruto, as both a cabinet secretary before becoming an attorney general and exiting that camp entirely. So the reasons why he did all this now came out clearly on the speeches that were made yesterday. And one of the key speeches then was the speech of Honorable Gachagua, the famously known as the truthful man and the mountain keeper. And so we want to put before the people's mirror the statements that were made by Honorable Gachagua on who this man Justin Muturi is, and also that also had in it other exposés tied to the government of William Ruto that they have both served under in a period of less than 3 years, and they have both exited. Now, Rigathi Gachagua remembers or starts the story of JB Muturi from the point that he joins the parliament as a young parliamentarian. And then after joining the parliament as a young parliamentarian, he points out that among the individuals that actually really respects the rule of law and works well as a speaker is JB Muturi. He recalls that later on he becomes the deputy president and is now a boss of JB Muturi. And while a lot of people are finding disquiet with that, JB Muturi is among the few that finds it as an easy, godly given thing and respects authority. So he says his solidarity with JB Muturi begins at that point when Muturi tells him that you are God chosen, and so I will have to respect authority. But he remembers candidly that once they start working with the JB Muturi now under the Ruto's government, things change. He recalls an instance when Ruto called him and was insulting JB Muturi. And he uses some very derogative words, and you see with abuses, the more you repeat them, the more you give them power. So here the people's mirror, we will not really repeat the wordings as they were said by Rigathi Gachagua, but he recalls the statements that were made about JB Muturi, which were really unkind.
Like myself, that's why we are out with you in the trenches, because you try to create order. Let me confirm to the people of Kenya that JB Muturi as Attorney General saved this country billions of shillings by refusing to sign shady deals that were laced with conflict of interest and state capture. I remember when one day he was in Dubai and William Ruto called me very annoyed and very angry and full of abuse, abusing JB Muturi in all manner of abuses. Wewe Regiji, tafuta hiyo mtu yako ya bere, hiyo mjinga. Bure kabisa hiyo mtu. Hii sanamu mlitoa wapi mliletea mimi as Attorney General? Tell him, nitafuta ye kazi. I'm telling him to do things he cannot do. Tafuta ye, si ni mtu ya kabila yako? Huyu Ruto anasema hataki ukabila. Tafuta ye and tell him to sign those things. Hey, I called JB. Hey, AG, where? Boss is burning. He is all over. Kwani umefanya nini? What?
And so he says after being, called and being, addressed in a manner that the boss then addressed him about JB Muturi, he had to call JB Muturi himself. So he did. And while he called JB Muturi, was inquiring at the nature under which those particular statements were being made and for the same reasons they were being made. And to his utter shock, they were being made because the president, the boss then, wanted JB Muturi to sign some documents that Muturi had not gone through at a runway of an airport amidst his traveling. And so after understanding really the context under which Muturi was not signing those papers, he had to report back to his boss. And upon this report is when now he realized that everything was not going to go well for JB Muturi. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining the Civic Lens for the first, if you're joining the People's Mirror for the first time, please hit the subscribe button. We are an affiliate channel of the Civic Lens KE that brings to you things in the Kenyan political scene as they occur. So, ladies and gentlemen, after this happens, after all these statements that Rigathi Gachagua makes happen, the abuse of JB and everything, Rigathi further goes ahead to detail for us another incident. And he says on this one, while they were deciding on who becomes or who fits in the cabinet during the cabinet reshuffling, he had suggested names including the name of JB. And when the president called him and Mudavadi to flank the announcement of the new cabinet secretaries, he realized that JB's name could be missing. And at that point, he asked the president to provide him with a paper of the list of the individuals that were actually going to be named. And after realizing that JB's name was not there, he cancelled the name that was there, replaced it with JB's name, and told Ruto that if Ruto decides not to announce JB at the main platform, then he will walk away in the presence of live coverage. So this details back their solidness and their friendship even before, forming the united opposition, because it details that fast forward, while he was exiting the UDA government, JB Muturi also decided to live alongside him because they both could have not worked under President Ruto's government. So he positively celebrates Justin Muturi in that particular book launch in full details. He says they have both worked in cabinet and he approves him as an individual that is both truthful and honest. Of course, one thing that they both detail as a moment that brought them together again was when Justin Muturi's son was abducted while he was the Attorney General. And he says that he recalls that day because Justin Muturi called him, informing him that his son had been abducted. And he called Kindiki to inform Kindiki of such abductions. And he could tell from Kindiki's voice that Kindiki knew where Justin Muturi's son was. But Kindiki was taking them in circles, in circles, in circles. He says he talked to the head of DCI, talked to the IG of police. He tried to reach out to everyone and everyone was taking him through circles. It is until he called the president, who dismissed and was still actually laundering insults on him for actually calling him about JB Muturi, that according to the statements of Rigathi Gachagua, really President Ruto did not like much. So he says after the call with the president is when he knew that the president was holding JB Muturi's son, and so he told JP to call the president directly. And it's after that call was made that JB's son was released to JB in a period of 2 hours. He went ahead to promise that if the united opposition gives him mandate to become the main man in the 2027 elections, then he will ensure that the interest of JB Muturi is well kept. So that was a very nice celebration of life while someone is still alive, recollecting the moments that they have actually shared together, that brings them together politically and personally. But he finished that particular celebration with a request both to JB and to Honorable Lenny Kivuti, a senior elder in the Embu region, so that they can focus all their interests in Mbeere North in the next 72 hours to diffuse the effect of the UDA government and the money allegedly disbursed in that area, to deliver the win to the Democratic Party that belongs to JB Muturi as an honor. So these particular statements were being made during the book launch of a book called Fighting for Order that JB Muturi has since launched, and has put our direction not only on the man as a focus, but now on the man's party as a focus on the Mbeere North ground, where the opposition and the government alike are struggling for a win come 27th of this month. That is the reflection before the mirror of the statements that were made by Honorable Rigathi Gachagua in the book launch of JB Muturi.